Welcome. What are you doing here?
Busy morning.
Thank you for your singing. That was beautiful, Kyle.
As I said to Dolly a minute ago, I was supposed to be the liturgist too. Fortunately, Marla also signed.
Yeah. Just to let you all know, when I called Kyle about being here this morning, he told me about the other two things, and I said, "You want to go for a triple play, you know?" But thank you for agreeing to talk with us, and it's always special to have someone share. And I always start with your family tradition and where you were when you grew up. And so tell us about that beginning for you.
I'm one of those people who's sort of a local. I grew up in Millbrae, so just up the peninsula, basically where the airport is, if you don't know it. And the faith tradition in my household, my mother was Catholic. My mother was raised Catholic. My mother was a strong Catholic, a staunch Catholic. My dad was, somewhat ambivalent to it. My grandmother, who lived with us from about the time I was 5, she was Methodist, but that didn't terribly influence the family dynamic, so to speak. And as I thought about it, I think, there was an influence of both religion and values on my life growing up, and they can come from different sources. So I was the one who, stayed involved in the Catholic Church most of my growing up. I was an altar boy at one point. I was a liturgist for several years, like when I was in high school with a folk mass that was going on at the church. And why I was the only one who stayed involved out of my siblings, I have no idea, but it was, and I think for me, what I took away. I think for me, what I took away from that was that there was something bigger than me. There was something outside of me. There was something that, was much larger than us as individuals. But at the same time, I was really influenced by values. And values very heavily also came from my dad, even though he wasn't religious per se. My dad was a person with immense trust in people. And one of the things I told Sandy about a long time ago is I was driving with my dad. We would often go on errands. And I'm probably middle school age, something like that. And for whatever reason, it came up in the car, some question about homosexuality. Now you have to understand, in answering this question, my dad is an absolute staunch Republican, a rock rib Republican, really. And my dad's attitude was, look, he said, I really don't care. I said, as long as people are good citizens and good in what they do, I really don't care. And I thought, for 1960s, that was a pretty progressive statement from a staunch Republican. And so I think that I got a lot of values from my dad that while he wouldn't necessarily admit to all of them, they were very important values.
I think the Republicans have changed since then.
Just a little bit?
Just a little bit.
But there was one other, there was one other thing, though, that was really formative for me, which was when I finished high school, and we were talking about college, neither of my parents had gone to college. And this is sort of, immediately, around the time of Vietnam, all the college protests. And my parents' concern was, they wanted to send me to a school that was safe. So I ended up at BYU as a Catholic, which actually had, I think I learned two very important things as I was thinking about it for this. There are two very important things I learned from that experience. The first one was I got to see firsthand, there is a small community of Catholics in Provo, Utah, a number of whom were students. Very small, like less than 1%, But what I realized was, how difficult it is for people to change the way they treat you once they realize you aren't like them. And because I was in the distinct minority, but I didn't stand out as a minority. And a number of the other people I knew made it very explicit. And the advantage and what I discovered is, okay, I'm happy to tell someone this is who I am. I wasn't trying to hide it. But once they knew me, it was really hard to change the way they treated me. And that was a really sort of huge insight from that experience being in a distinct minority.
But the other thing I realized, and this comes back to, my Catholic upbringing, the other thing I realized is that I didn't like either the Catholic Church or the Mormon Church because they both believed there was a right way. And that did not sit well with me. I could not believe that there was a God who felt that you had to go one way or that was it. And that just didn't sit well with me. And so from that point on, I was not really happy with either church.
It'd be interesting maybe to start with, you're a human being and I can treat you nice because you're a human being.
Yeah.
Forget about the labels if we can. So how did you find the UCC and how did you find Ladera Community Church?
So I was married in the UCC church. My ex-wife had been involved in the Redwood City Church for a number of years. And we went for a period of time after we were married to the Redwood City Church, and we're pretty disillusioned with the church. It became, I'm going to call it a cult of personality. At least that's what it felt like. And left and went to the Woodside Church. And within a year or two after we left, everything fell apart with the sexual scandals in the Redwood City Church. And we realized then why it had felt so uncomfortable. It had felt uncomfortable because it was a cult of personality, and the pastor was taking advantage of it. It was a really hard thing to deal with. It was a really hard thing to deal with, and we knew a lot of people who were affected in various ways by it. But in coming to Ladera, I, about 20 years ago, separated and divorced, and I knew I needed to find a church home. Because I'd grown up Catholic, I thought that it was important to have something that had more of a liturgy. So I tried an Episcopal church, I tried a couple of other churches, and none of them felt quite right, and I didn't feel welcome. And I think that was the biggest issue. I didn't feel welcomed. And so we had briefly been here before we divorced, and I thought, okay, maybe I'll try to go to Ladera again. And Bert, along with lots of others, were just incredibly welcoming. And I never felt uncomfortable. They made me feel right at home, and that was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I don't know what it is about Episcopalians, and I grew up as an Episcopalian, but I remember, I know they don't intend this, but I remember Stelly and I went to an Episcopal church in San Rafael when we moved back to California, and not a single person said a word to us.
Yeah, and that was
by the time we left. And yeah, and I know a lot of very fine Episcopalian
I'm sure there
pastors
are.
and people and everything like that, but I do think that there is a culture around welcoming, and that was the signature thing for the church that I went to in Gainesville too,
Yeah.
in the UCC, was the welcome, the extravagant welcome.
Well, and that's what made all the difference here, was just feeling welcome, feeling like it was okay to be here, feeling like I belonged.
Yeah.
Feeling like, if I wanted to try to sing in the choir, I could try to sing in the choir.
Yeah. Good. So a while back in council, we were talking about, why do you go to church and things like that. And during the council meeting, I did happen to have my email open, and I get this email from you. It says, I go to church to become a whole person. Can you talk to us about that a little bit and share some of your thoughts there?
I think I guess more than anything, I'm really concerned about some of the trends I see in terms of how people are treated. And I'll give you a couple of examples of the things that are really disturbing to me. I look at, businesses who choose to hire their employees in such a way that we're going to keep most of our employees part-time, because by keeping them part-time, we don't have to pay them benefits. They can get social services from the government. Well, that's not the way you treat a human being. We see businesses, and this is particularly true for things like, the coffee shops and stuff, these big ones, that they schedule people the way that works for the business. If that means you come an hour here and 2 hours there and an hour here, well, that's just the way it is. It totally ignores the fact that people are human, they have a life, they have children, they have responsibilities, and it plays havoc with all those things because they're treating them as a commodity. They're not treating them as a human being. And I see the same thing when I look at what's being done with technology now. A lot of people are being treated more than anything as a source of data, and they're not even really thinking about. And so to me, one of the things that's really important about coming to church is just it's easy to get sucked into some of these things and not pay attention to it. And I think that I find it, really renewing for me to come and be in community and to hear messages that encourage us to think about that whole human being. Because I just feel that there's so little of it going on right now in so many spaces that it's really, really important that people get that message. And I think that's one of the things too that I really like about the vision that we have, because I think that many people are looking for that. Many people are looking to be a part of treating people in a more humane way, but they don't know how to do it. And I think that our vision may be part of what can help people to come to that.
So, yes. So that's true for maybe looking out at the broader population, but for you individually, what are some of the things here at Ladera that help you work toward that, you yourself being that whole person?
Well, so I find that worship is a time where I stop. I stop and I listen. And I listen to the music, I listen to what you or whoever else is sharing. And that is, for me, that's very important, because it is a full stop. I'm here, I'm present, and I'm really trying to think about that. I don't have a lot of things wrapped up, and I'm trying not to be distracted with other things. To me, I really, I get a lot of value out of participating in the music. I really enjoy working with others. I enjoy being in the choir, and that's sort of renewing for me. And it's been a lot of growth for me, but it's also been really, really good. I truly value, although I haven't participated the extent I'd like, I truly value all the things this church tries to do around social justice and reaching out to others. But I really like the fact that our mission says, hey, the last thing is make a difference. Because if you're not grounded in yourself, right? If you're not grounded in yourself, it's really hard to bring your whole self to other things to try to help others. And so I think that's what's really important is we say, yeah, we need to, look deeper and quiet the noise, because until we do that for ourselves, it's really hard to reach out and help others. So those things are all important to me. And what my sincere hope is, and I sort of think about what Dave was saying when he was here a couple months ago or whatever, is my sincere hope is that we can get that message out to more people, because I actually think a lot of people need that message and want that message.
So recently, you had your last year of teaching.
Yeah.
But when you and I had a conversation one time, you said, I'm not really retiring.
True.
So what's on the horizon?
Well, so as I said, went to the school, excuse me, I said, what I really want to do is I want to get off the school calendar. We have 3 kids, they're all on the East Coast. I would like to be able to go see my kids when it works for them, not when it works on the school calendar. So if they want me to come in October, I'd like to be able to come in October. Or we were just talking with the middle one, and they'd like to go away for their anniversary, and they have a new little grandchild, and we're like, well, we can come and help out, So I'm very much feeling like I want to be able to do that. I'm not ready to be done working, and I sort of subscribe, I don't know who, I think it was someone here who told me about it. I sort of subscribe to this idea of the concept of graduated retirement, which is, now let me see if I can find something for about 40 weeks a year. And I'm happy to work, I'm happy to work. I enjoy it. I'm interested in it. I'd like to find something and work 40 weeks a year. And then when I want to, go see the kids, or when I want to, go and travel. And to me, that's a nice balance of the two. I'm not ready to say, stop, I'm done. But I'd like to find some way to transition into it, I guess, is sort of where I'm looking and where I'm hoping to go.
So one question I really like, I'm not sure if all the people that come up here like it, but Nobody's told me this yet, but I always like to ask, what do we not know about you that we should know about you, or that you would like us to know about you that we don't know?
No, I can tell you one thing, and I mean, doing the music today was actually a huge deal for me. I 30 years ago, I tried to sing in a choir, and I'm not one of those who did it in college or any of those things. And at some point, we were going to have some performance, and the choir director just mouth the words. And that was such a downer. That was such a downer, And so shut me down for 20 years, probably. Shut me down for 20 years. And it was really at Ladera where I thought, well, I'll try this again. I'll try this again. And I was so grateful to Mark Hansen, who was supportive and, gave me a chance to really try. And then Leslie Keenan, who was delightful and worked with me. And, I'd like to think that I could actually make a contribution now. But it's only because people were willing to support me and work with me. If they hadn't been, I'd still be not doing anything. And that's been a huge thing for me. And it's been a growth, and it's been something I thoroughly enjoy, but I had to be supported, otherwise I wouldn't be there. And
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking that we're going to have to find out the other thing from Sandy at coffee hour. Thank you for that, Kyle. And it does make a difference, and I know that your voice and your presence in the choir is greatly appreciated, not just by the choir, but by the congregation as well. So I think I know the answer to this. It's kind of been sprinkled out through the things that you said, but the last question was, where do you go, or what do you do for inspiration?
For starters, I come here. I seriously do. For starters, I come here. That's important to me. I think that, I don't have a specific source per se. I think that, Sandy and I draw a lot from music. We listen to music almost all the time. We really enjoy that, and it's a part of, being together. And for me, I also really value the opportunity to just be out in nature. That's the other thing that for me, I think is really inspiring. Whether it's going on a hike, whether it's sometimes even on a run, but just being out in different ways in nature, I find that is really inspiring for me.
Good. Well, thank you, Kyle, and thank you not just for your singing, but all the other things you do here, like help the preschool committee, help as the treasurer, and the finance committee and everything. Thank you very much for everything you do.
You're very welcome.